Hi, welcome to the Sacred Journey. The Sacred Journey is the program that reminds you that life is an adventure. Each and every experience we have is a unique and perfect opportunity for learning. I'm Joyce St. Germaine, and tonight's program, Helping Our Youth to Heal. You're probably used to me saying the same opening line since 1995. I think I've been saying life is a wonderful adventure, and today couldn't use that word wonderful because right now we are all so wounded. Less than a week ago we had another school shooting, and if you're like me, you have a range of emotions: anger, disbelief, grief, sadness, maybe even acceptance that this is the way it's going to be. I wish I had answers. I don't. But I felt like I needed to do something. I worked with children as an art teacher, as you may know, for 37 years, and I retired in 2012. Every year since then, I've acted as a long-term sub in my same school district. So I've been in the classroom and in touch with teachers, students, administrators, the school environment. And I was teaching when we first had Columbine, and no one had ever thought anything like that would ever happen. We never even gave it an opportunity to be a possibility. It couldn't even have come into anyone's thoughts. Since then, when I was in school, I noticed immediate action was taken. SWAT teams came out to the schools, checked out the schools, looked at what would best work in an event such as what happened there. How could we try to keep the school community safe? And as horrible as it sounds, try to keep the damage and the carnage from being as bad as it could be. Hard to believe we need to use a word like carnage when we're talking about education. And since then, I don't know the statistics. They're readily available. How many school shootings have we had? How many children have died? How many teachers have died? What's happening? What are we going to do? This program now is about supporting our students. It's all over the news that students have had enough. And I believe their slogan right now for their movement is never again. As adults, we need to support them with whatever they think they need to do. If they think they need to protest, if they think they need to have a walkout, whatever they need to do, we have to support them. We have to give them the safety to do it. If they're going to have a walkout, we need to make sure they're safe in doing so. All kinds of things are coming up in social media. This is about guns. This is about mental health. This is about everything. This is about our society crumbling. But we have the pieces within reach. We can put it back together. But it won't be any one section of society. It won't be any one of us's job to do it, nor will any of us be able to. These pieces are scattered, but they're not so scattered that we can't, as a society, put them back together. Each one of us has a different relationship to the events that happened. We each have a different, I'll call it a relationship to our youth. I'm not a parent, but I dedicated my life to working with as many children as I could because that was my passion. Some of you are both teachers and parents. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors, friends. It doesn't matter. We all have a responsibility to help our youth, not during times of trouble only, but all times. You've heard me talk about in shamanism that we are all connected through these amazing little threads of energy. When someone feels a disconnect, as if they don't belong, as if they don't matter, they've grown disconnected. Those little energy threads have become frayed, have become weakened, maybe even have become severed. Emotionally, it looks like a child who's withdrawn, a child who's maybe rebellious. There are so many signs in some of our youth that they have become disconnected. It's great if you are in a position where it's an obvious thing for what you can do to help. If you see a child in your neighborhood, whether it's an elementary school age or middle school or high school or even a young adult that seems disconnected, there might be something you could do that would just let them know that they matter. Perhaps they've stopped and watched you garden, or they've watched you walk or play with your dog. You could invite them to come a little closer to learn maybe a little something about gardening, or if you were working on your car. They need a connection. This last situation, the young man, I guess they call him the shooter, it's a horrible way to be identified. He had lost his parents, and another family had opened their hearts and taken him in. An extraordinary act of love. But even they couldn't realize how disconnected and disassociated he was. I don't have answers. I have a few suggestions. When I was in middle school, teaching middle school, years after I had begun, a program was started called an advisory program. Everyone looked upon it a little bit quizzically, like, what is this about? It's one more thing we have to do? I think it was the single best thing we ever did. Every morning, instead of a home room, which had like 24, 25 students in it, where you'd listen to the morning announcements and then start your day, we started with a small group of kids, maybe 9, 10, no more than 12, and we started in a circle and really got to know each other, got to talk to each other, got to find out what everyone was like, what everyone was about, and we sent the message, everyone mattered. And if someone was feeling a little disconnected or sad or was grieving about something that day, was concerned or anxious about something, we knew about it. They felt safe in sharing it. So a little problem could get addressed before it became a big problem. Certainly not major problems were being solved in that circle, but the awareness that there was the need for greater help, that showed up in those advisory circles. Then we could go, as the teachers or the advisors, we could go to the appropriate person and say, this student needs help, there's a situation at home that's difficult, this is what they express, this is what their behavior is demonstrating. And these little things would get caught before they became big things. I don't know if this happens at the high school. I've been in some high schools as a substitute teacher, and there are similar programs, but I wasn't there long enough to know if it's an ongoing thing. But I am suggesting that within the school environment, there is a breakdown of large groups into small groups that are personal, that are everyone knowing everyone else, and forming a little family. Some kids don't have families. They might have them physically, but they don't have them emotionally. They don't feel that they belong. When I think to all the warning signs, I'm not thinking about this was going to turn to violence. I'm thinking of this child, this teen, this young adult was going to hit rock bottom, and it was going to happen in a number of ways. It could have been suicide. It could have been a violent act. It could have been so many different things. But the point is, rather than excluding this child from the environment, expelling, sending him away, He needed to be welcomed, maybe not into that exact environment, if that environment could not meet his needs. And it's clear that he had needs that were greater than most public school situations can provide. But something needed to be provided to him and for him. I can think of a number of situations with all of these other school events that we've heard through the years where those kids were disconnected or disassociated, and they were pushed away because they were too different, too odd, too whatever. Kids are not too anything to be embraced. There has to be a way for us to be better at recognizing, just noticing, even if we don't know what to do. Notice that kid in your neighborhood. Maybe even notice a kid at the restaurant, the movie theater, whatever. I'm not saying meddle in other people's affairs. I'm saying be aware. Nobody should be in this alone. Nobody's isolated. What happens in the big community starts in the small community. So healing can start in the small community and grow bigger and bigger and bigger and make a bigger and greater impact. I am a big proponent on peacefulness everywhere. Get rid of the violent movies. Get rid of the violent video games. It's become entertainment and not actual reality, not violence. And I think there is, again, disconnect about, oh, guns actually cause this. They're not video games. They're not things on TV. I don't think the translation is happening accurately. I don't want to get too political, but it's hard not to. Right now, everyone is like, well, I don't want to give up my guns. We have Second Amendment rights. We have this, we have that. Well, we have the need to be a whole. We have the need to put our pieces back together. Our teens are our future. And I know that sounds so cliche. They are the world leaders. They are the doctors. They are the researchers. They are the builders and the artists and the musicians and the poets. They're the chefs. They're the farmers. They are everything. We cannot let one of them fall through the cracks. We also need to restore ourselves. Pray, meditate, dance, sing, drum, rattle, go in nature, do what you need to do to restore your own connection so you will have enough to give, so you will have enough to support others. I am so grateful for this group of youth, the teens that are saying, never again. We are taking matters in our own hands. I haven't yet expressed on TV my views about what's happening in our country politically, but now it's time. When you have a so-called leader encouraging violence, and go on back and look at some of the tapes when he was campaigning, when you have a leader encouraging elitism and separateness, you are getting what someone supposedly in charge is giving you. We need to be a compassionate society, and it is not happening in the White House. It is not happening high up. I don't care what your political views are. Just be kind and compassionate. That's what I want from a leader. I almost don't care about anything else from my leaders except be kind and compassionate. That kind of trickles down. Be kind and compassionate to animals, animal welfare groups, the environment. Again, I'm being political, but if you look back and you look at what our current president and other agencies that he is in charge of, they are destroying the environment. They are saying the earth doesn't matter and the animals that live on it don't matter either. One of the key warning signs in a child that is capable of unspeakable violence is violence and cruelty toward animals. What more do you need to know? What more do you need to hear about that? It is widely said in many cultures that how a culture or society treats its animals is a clear reflection on who they are as beings. There's a wonderful t-shirt I keep seeing online, and perhaps it's time to get one. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. Be kind. I know this sounds all Pollyanna and oh yeah, just be kind and the world will be all right again. Yeah, it's a start. Will it be easy? No, absolutely not. Being kind not just to your immediate family and friends and your close circle. Being kind to everybody. Being kind to everything. My friends joke with me about, I'm probably an over kind to the environment kind of gal, like everything gets recycled, repurposed, reused. But I think it says something about knowing that we're all connected. Lakota we say, mitakwiyase, all my relations. Anyone who does yoga or meditation knows namaste. The divine in me bows down to the divine in you. One of my favorite ways of saying the same thing, in Mayan, in Lak'ech, Alaki. I am another you and you are another me. Every one of us is that teen that is being called the shooter. I wish we could think of a better way to call him. This hurt, lost, wounded soul. Every one of us is him in some way, and he's every one of us. Thank God that we have not acted out in the way that he did, because we haven't had wounds quite as deep as his. We've had some way to maintain a connection. Do what you need to do to heal. Do what you need to do to be aware, to be perceptive, to be connected, to be responsible. Volunteer. If you have this weird gift or hobby or interest that you'll say nobody else would be interested in, how do you know? If you became interested in it, there's a kid that will be interested in it too. Maybe you love hiking and identifying animal tracks. There's a kid that would love and need to do that. Or if you're a fly fisherman or fisherwoman, you want to show someone how to tie lures or whatever they are. I'm not a fisher person, as you can tell. You know something. You have experience. You have a story that someone will want to hear. It doesn't matter why you're getting together with them. You're letting them know that they matter. You're letting them know that they are connected. This show came up spontaneously, as you can tell, and as you could tell, I'm kind of emotional about it. And this is 6 days after that event happened. And I'm going to say I expect. I was going to say I pray. I expect healing, because I really believe that what we feed on a subconscious level is what gets manifested. If we feed fear, we will get fear. If we feed solutions and belonging and connection, we will get that. Now, I know troubling thoughts will pop up from time to time. We'll call them fears. Instead of pushing them away, embrace them. Don't cultivate them. Just say, thank you for coming to my awareness and reminding me that I have the free will to choose my thoughts, to choose what I want to feed, what I want to cultivate. As a hypnotherapist, I have learned the subconscious mind does not know the difference between what we want and what we fear. It will manifest whatever we feed, whatever we cultivate. There's a beautiful story about a grandfather, a Native American grandfather, and his grandson, and the grandson's talking to him, and he says, "Grandfather, I have this dream about two wolves fighting, a black one and a white one. One is good and one is evil. And they fight, and I don't know how it's going to end up. I don't know which one is going to win. How do I know which one's going to win? I'm so worried." And the grandfather says, and I'm grossly paraphrasing, "The one that will win is the one that you feed." What are we feeding our youth? We are feeding them assault weapons. We are feeding them violent video games. We are feeding them violent movies. Let's change their diet. Let's feed them love and hope and optimism and creativity. I am open to receiving feedback from people. I am not trying to attack nor put down anyone's belief system. I'm trying to share some possibilities. I'm trying to perhaps let you know that there are other ways of looking at things. Please understand, before I get a deluge of records and phone calls and whatever, the deluge all saying, "I have a right to carry a gun." I'm not anti-gun. I personally aren't comfortable with them because I have no background or no history, no experience with them. So someone like me shouldn't have one. I have no problem with other people having them. But not assault weapons, please. They make no sense in any situation. Maybe people that are defending our safety, maybe weaponry for war, which again, we'll get into a whole different time. Let's be realistic. Let's look at what kind of regulations we need for today's times, not for the 1700s. For today, for now. And all we have to do is examine what's happening in our society. Now, never again, powerful, powerful words. Let's remember them. Let's support them. And we will expect that a situation like this never happen again. Go through the emotions you need to go through, but then land on the one that can bring healing. Go through the grieving process. Go through, part of that's anger. Go through the process you need. Come back around to healing. And know that love, not just romantic love, love, that sense that every living thing has value and has meaning. We're all equal, we're all connected, we're all related. We need each other. Right now, our youth need us more than anyone does. Thank you for listening. Please do what you can for the youth that you know and the ones that you haven't yet met. Thanks for joining us on the sacred journey. We'll see you next time.